This video contains spoilers for Deltarune. Please play the game before watching this. So, I'm sure you clicked on this thinking, Rudy night? What? Surely that's impossible, right? I mean, that's what I thought the first time I even paid the thought any mind. Sadly, it appears it's not so simple. I realized there's a weird amount of stuff that could lead to this, and I'm concerned that this can actually be built up quite a lot. A while ago, I saw someone point out a weird Rudy-related detail that they thought meant Rudy could be the knight, and I thought about the notion a little bit too long and ended up with enough shower thoughts to actually build a Rudy knight theory out of them. An insane theory, sure. I have clearly lost it by trying to see too far, but I felt it had to be shared. This is going to make me sound several times more insane than any of you thought I was. I'm sorry in advance, but it has to be done. It's time to play devil's advocate and discuss why it's actually somewhat possible for Rudolph Rudy Holiday to be the Roaring Knight. If you'd believe it, I started thinking about this because someone thought Rudy being the knight was possible because of his dialogue about the sink. I don't think the sink has anything to do with Rudy's potential knighthood. Just going to get that out of the way. Now don't get me wrong, the sink is really weird to me, and I might have an idea or two regarding that, but that's for another time. Now, Rudy? As the knight? Right off the bat, something important to note with Rudy Knight, or Death Knight, or even Mayor Knight, is that the Holiday family seems to be very important in Deltarune. The Goner Maker voice calls Noelle someone very, very wonderful. She's a major part of Chapter 2 as well, no matter which route you take. To be honest, you could never finish Chapter 2 if she didn't stand up to Queen inside A, and inside B, well, I think what she is made to do is the only way to proceed there. The entirety of the Spamton sweepstakes revolved around Noelle and her relation to everyone. Noelle used to hang out with Chris nearly every day. She, Des, Azriel, and Chris used to hang out often before whatever happened to Des and before Azriel went to college. Rudy is close friends with Asgore, who's Chris's father. The Dreamers and the Holidays have drifted apart, but they still seem relatively close. I find it hard to believe that Deltarune won't dig into the two families' histories. And the best way to involve the Holidays is to, well, make one of them the main antagonist. Could definitely pull up an interesting dynamic with anyone in their family being the knight, though I think we can safely rule out Noelle. Could also give Queen yet another motive for wanting Noelle in particular to be her new knight. She recognized the resemblance between Noelle and the knight and connected potential power. Toby also said that he called it Noelle's theme, but it's the kind of song that shows up everywhere. Who's the last character whose motif showed up frequently? How important was he? No, not Gaster. Azriel. The knight is almost definitely a Holiday in my opinion. If you excuse or work around the fact that Rudy is ill and seems to be bedridden and confined to the hospital, this theory holds up scarily well. First, we'll look at what Spamton has to say on the knight.
Speaking of communion, Chris, did you know that the knight... No, I'm sorry, there's been too many active vacation days in a goddamn vacation, straight to hell!
Communion, you say? Rudy says he's going to be well enough to go to church tomorrow. He tells that to Noelle, which firstly means he's well enough to move. Secondly, it gives us a tie between church and the knight. Most people take that to mean Alvin Knight, because he's the priest, but what if it's even more foreshadowing of our church chapter? Because, come on, we all know that's coming. There's way too much information there to think we won't visit eventually. It's possible he was thinking of the fact that he has clearance to visit the church tomorrow when he created the fountain in the computer lab, influencing Spamton's knowledge of the knight. Next, there are a lot of things that most people attribute to Des being the Roaring Knight, or her being in the depths and having an influence on the darkness, which affects the Dark World, theoretically. But what if stuff like the ribbons or baseballs is actually a result of Rudy being the knight? There's a fair amount of Noelle-related things there, so I find it highly likely someone who is close to her influenced it. Like those plugs in Spamton's basement. Wait, that gives another tie between the Holidays and the knight, because Noelle interacted with the Spamton email account before the Dark World granted him sentience. The knight's gotta be a Holiday, right? Many people compared Queen to a mother, specifically Noelle's mother, and how controlling she is. And Rudy is fully aware Noelle's mother might not be the greatest. He feels bad he's not there to even things out. That's clearly something he's thought about a lot since his admission to the hospital. Also, there's the fact that the Viru-Viru-kun who helps teach Noelle how battles work agrees when Noelle says it's like Dragon Blazers. It seems to know what Dragon Blazers is. That might also be Rudy influenced too, because we know he plays it with Noelle. There's also the whole thing about the Holiday family being fairly religion-oriented as well. Rudy has plans to go to church, as though he would have been doing so already if he wasn't ill. His entire family is connected to Christmas. Tons of Noelle's more niche dialogue and connections are related to holidays. Their family motto is, "Holidays happen whether you like it or not," even though everyone likes holidays. Both daughters are connected to angels in one way or another, even if it's purely conjecture. Heck, Rudy has angel dolls in his hospital room that Noelle and her sister made. And the three heroes appear at World's Edge to banish the angels' heaven. I'll come back to that. This gives Rudy a decent amount of religious motivation to the angels' heaven, which seems to be the knight's end goal. Or the roaring is their end goal, and it will call it the angels' heaven or something, I don't know. The fact that Queen thinks Noelle is strong might also be Rudy projecting his wish for Noelle to grow stronger to be able to take care of herself. Stronger. Okay, nope, not coming back to that. Moving on! So, now we've got a ton of random Rudy connections in the Dark World, somehow. But now we need a motive. And regrettably, I can actually think of a very plausible motive. Rudy is ill. In Undertale, according to Asgore in the Alarm Clock app, Rudy dies. He's dead. But his daughters get to grow up in the sunlight. It's very possible, highly likely in my opinion, that Rudy is destined to die. And it's possible he's aware of it too. If he's dying and knows it, wouldn't he like to see places that were important to him one last time? And if by chance he learned of Dark Fountains, he might try to experience it one last time, making his memories into something more tangible, something he can do to reminisce before he leaves. The abandoned classroom is a classroom full of games, possibly a room the Holiday children once had class in, or perhaps a room Rudy once had class in? There's a drawing from young Alvin there. I wonder what the timeline is. Anyways, the computer lab? Noelle mentions it's somewhere like where Des wanted to take her. Perhaps Rudy subconsciously created an environment that was something good for Noelle. And it's already been confirmed that Rudy and Noelle play video games together. Perhaps they play computer games there together as well. Sure, their family is likely fairly wealthy, and they seem to have several games consoles, but visiting the library and ending up on the computers in the lab is a fairly common thing, and the nostalgia for that sort of thing could be pretty huge. It's also notable that the two places there have been fountains so far have been on the same street as the hospital. Definitely easier to get there for someone who's ill than for them to get someplace a street further back. Considering by now he's strong enough to go to the church, which is further away than the hospital, it's possible he's just barely well enough to travel a street further and is testing his limits. Rudy being the knight and making fountains in places he has memories of would also support a few of the Dark World locations I have in mind, such as the Holiday Manor and Flower King. And why would Rudy want the Angel's Heaven? I've seen an idea for the Angel's Heaven going around, where it's like a personal heaven where everything is perfect for you. If Rudy is dying, his life falling apart, one daughter missing, his friend lost his job, his wife seems incredibly harsh to his remaining daughter, his family and the Dreamers started hanging out, the Angel's Heaven might be his goal exactly. A way to prolong his life and bring back a healthier family like the one that was there before he fell ill. This take on the Angel's Heaven reminds me a lot from the bubble from the finale episodes of Gravity Falls, if you know what I'm talking about. If Rudy was the knight and his motivation for making fountains is reliving his life, remembering memories, that could be interesting. Memories could be a prominent theme, differentiating the real from the fake. The Dark Worlds are already a decent distinction between reality and fantasy, and your choices don't matter. Nobody can choose who they are in this world. Could have an ominous meaning when it's taken in the perspective of someone on his deathbed. And the fact that Rudy remembers the sink, and several other characters also have slightly modified interactions in Chapter 2 depending on what you did in Chapter 1. The game remembers. Undertale remembers things too. Our choices might have just gotten more interesting. Rudy could also be trying to mend his home life before he loses it forever. His first fountain was just a test in an abandoned classroom where no one could get hurt. His second was in the computer lab where Noelle was, and likely present in the creation of the fountain to try and help her grow a bit stronger, feeding into Queen trying to make her stronger, or thinking she already is strong, and maybe even the weird route. Okay, that last bit feels like a stretch. But the next fountains might be trying to fix the home dynamic that fell into disarray. A fountain at his best friend's store, because his friend's life is falling apart as well. A fountain at his own home to try and repair the relationship between his wife and daughter. Perhaps one at town hall to help the mayor chill out a little. Who knows? Okay, she doesn't need to chill out. Her room is cold enough already, but she does need to relax a little. However, there's several reasons that it just doesn't make sense. Thank the angel for that. It's near impossible for Rudy to be the knight because he's sick. As far as we know, he's confined to his bed. Noelle is surprised and relieved Rudy is well enough to go to church tomorrow. If the person who seems to spend the most time with him is surprised by his stage of recovery, then surely he couldn't have already gone on some field trips, right? Not to mention, the school and the library aren't underpopulated places. If someone saw Rudy out and about, wouldn't they mention it? Or wouldn't he tell Noelle? Surely he'd tell her that he's been able to get out of the hospital for a bit, right? Sure, you can make the excuse that since Rudy is well enough to go to church tomorrow, he's well enough to visit places he's had fond memories of, but that's genuinely weird. Why wouldn't anyone else notice? Why wouldn't they mention something to the family friend or to Noelle? Surely he'd be accompanied by hospital staff to make sure he's okay. And it's not like Rudy is sneaking around hometown either. He's not completely cured or anything, and that cough of his isn't exactly quiet. That would draw all attention to him if he was trying to sneak around hometown. Wait, sneaking? Sneaking.mp3? No. But Noelle does mention Holiday Family Ninja Style in the newest Girl blog post. No, okay, something else. His wife is the mayor, who seems pretty set on instilling order. Her dying husband sneaking around town causing chaos seems like the last thing she'd want. Seems like information she would be aware of as well, because she knows everything going on in town. Unless she's in on it too? I seriously doubt it. This can probably completely fall apart depending on how Rudy arrives at church. If he's walking on his own, that makes it far more likely than if he were in a wheelchair or being assisted by hospital staff. If he does have support moving around, it makes it less likely he's gotten up on his own to make fountains. Though, perhaps he's only bedridden because creating fountains is taking a toll on his already ill Rudy? Who really knows? I mean, Chris does seem to go to sleep after creating a fountain, which could mean it takes energy and not only determination, but I have no clue. I find Rudy being the knight extremely unlikely, and I hate that I was able to build so much from a weird comment and some shower thoughts. But I guess this exists now. If you sat through all of that, I'm sorry. If I've convinced you that this is somewhat plausible, I'm even more sorry. Run, hide, flee, leave it behind, and stay far away. There are so many better night alternatives. Go find one of those. Please go find one of those. Save yourself. I hope I haven't lost all credibility I might ever have by writing this. I genuinely hope this isn't proven true. Please, Toby. Guess this just means we technically can't rule anything out quite yet. Or at least can't rule anyone of important lineage out. Anyways, if you have thoughts, leave them in the comments. Better knight candidates, evidence for or against this theory that I missed, anything. I want to consider more knight candidates in the future, because personally I haven't come to any solid conclusions as of yet, so leave some ideas in the comments, won't you? I'll see you next time. Bye!